welcome to the Ryan Capital Broker Series. This is the first of a nine-part series of videos talking about trade and cash flow lending. I've been dying to get this one out. This is something that I'm hugely passionate about. I spent 15 years of my 20-plus year career in lending in total, and a little bit in the UK as well, where I worked in Manchester on a secondment. First things first, though, I do just want to apologise for the quality of this video. I am filming it from home, from my home office. Circumstances just worked out that way, but I couldn't hesitate any further. I had to get it done. So this is it. This is the first part. But look, let's get started. So I'm going to put this up on the screen for you guys. This is our disclaimer. The information obviously contained within this presentation is general in nature. It does not necessarily pertain to your personal circumstances. However, if something does resonate with you, then I encourage you obviously to make contact with us, and we can discuss it in more detail. Okay. Looking at it, there's so much to talk about when it comes to trade and working capital. And one of the reasons why I want to get this out there is just where we are from an economic standpoint. I can see that a lot of businesses, particularly in the supply chain, there's going to be some gaps and trading terms and trade cycles are going to stretch out. So this is hugely important, and I think it's really, really interesting for businesses to understand what are the options, how do banks and how do lenders obviously assess things. And we're going to talk to products and a number of different things and a number of different ways in which you can obtain working capital. Australia, we love nothing more than property. And historically, the bank will first ask you when you want to borrow money, even if it is for cash or cash flow. Great, what security are you going to give me? Okay, so that's just their first point of call. But there are many different options and many things to consider. So looking at it, this is the 9-part series that we're going to be exploring. The first video today, which is part 1, this is just an intro to cash flow lending, and I'm just going to go very high level, talking about cash cycles and that sort of thing. Part 2, I'll talk to you about cash flow lending and how it works and how to apply it in a business sense, and I'll give you a case study or an example. Part 3, we'll be talking about the 7 cash flow swing factors. What are the key components to cash flow? And then we'll actually start to explore in part 4 types of products that are available in the market. Product number 1, most people know what it is. It's an overdraft. An overdraft is a form of working capital lending. We'll also explore other forms of lines of credit and business loans to some extent. Business loans are not what I would consider to be typically your working capital type lend, but there are those kind of options out there. Product 2 that we're going to explore is trade finance for both international and domestic trade. And we'll also, including in that, we'll touch on things like letters of credit. What do they mean? How do they work? And that sort of thing as well, but they're more for people who are either importing or exporting goods. Product 3 is not hugely popular in Australia, but it is a growing commodity. Invoice and debtor finance. Now, this is actually somewhere that I also have a lot of experience in. I actually started my career in invoice and debtor finance, and that's actually the path in which I worked. I did a secondment in Manchester for a firm called Bibby Financial Services too many years ago, about 15, 16 years ago now. And that really opened up my eyes to that particular world, because over there it's a hugely saturated market, whereas in Australia, again, we like property. Invoice and debtor finance is probably a little bit lesser known, but it still has a relatively decent sized portfolio here in Australia. Just people don't know that much about it. Then I'll talk a little bit more about asset-based lending and how does that work and how does that fit into the picture. Asset-based lending is typically reserved for larger connections when you're talking about multiple millions of dollars, but it can still relate into the smaller business. There are products out there that sort of fit into the same sort of mechanics. But we'll go into that in a little bit more detail, probably a little bit more of a complex one. But look, let's explore it anyway. And in part 9, I'm going to just do a quick summary and a close, just so everyone has a bit of a short summarization. But you can see there's just so much to talk about when it comes to trade and working capital. So I wasn't going to be able to capture it all in one video, particularly if I'm only going to be doing these within 5 to 10 minutes. But that's it. So watch out for these. They're going to be coming over the next few months. All right. So I can see all my banker friends now looking at this, going, "Oh yeah, this is just Cam. When I was a specialist in trade and working capital, I drew trade lines pretty much every day. But it's what cash flow is all about, and essentially cash flow is really talking about the time it takes from when cash goes out of the business to the time it takes for cash to go in. And whilst a business may be profitable, that's not the reason why businesses tend to fall over. They can still be profitable businesses, but they just can't actually maintain the cash flow within the business to be able to continue to pay its debts, pay its suppliers, pay wages, pay GST, pay VAT, and all of these type of things. But when you look at this is a traditional sort of trade cycle or cash conversion cycle. And you can see if you're an importing business, if you're importing something from overseas, it may take them 45 days to actually manufacture the goods, for which you may be required to outlay cash from the start. And after 45 days at the shipment point, you may be required to pay the full balance, or at that point of time to pay the full amount. And then from the shipment point, it could take 45 days to get here, particularly if it's coming over by ship, not necessarily by air freight. So that's obviously, we're already looking at, if you've paid cash out from day one, you're already 90 days out of pocket before the goods even arrive. Now, if you're holding on to that stock because you haven't pre-sold it, you could be holding on to that stock for maybe another 45, 60 days. I've seen stock turnover levels at 90 and 100 days sometimes. So if you consider that you've already waited 90 days for the goods even to be arrived, holding on to it any further that's just cash that's sitting in your business that hasn't moved yet. And then if you're selling those goods on terms, guess what? You might wait another 45 to 60 days to get paid. And in this example, we're looking at a trade cycle that takes 180 days from the time that cash might be out to the time cash might be in. That's a long time to be out of pocket for cash. So you could still be profitable, but you're out of cash for that length of time. And during all of that time, you've got supplier payments, you've got wages, you've got BAS, you've got fixed costs, you've got everything going on within the business. So, this is why cash flow is hugely important. So we've already touched on the types of cash flow products, which I've said in the introduction. So we are going to go through all of those later on in the series. But guys, this is just the introduction. This is just the small part of trade and cash flow finance. Next one's going to be talking about an actual example, give you a live case and show you how cash flow lending works and actually supports your business. Now, a couple of people have mentioned that I haven't been very good at passing on my details, guys, so I'm going to put them up here. So my name is Cameron Finlayson. I'm the Managing Director and Finance Broker here. I have 20 years in lending experience, most of which was spent in the commercial space. However, I do also provide home and residential investment advice as well. These are my websites, including my personal LinkedIn page and the company LinkedIn page. But if you have any questions and would like to discuss this in more details, please feel free to contact me at any time. And keep in touch and keep watching out for the next part. So guys, thanks very much again, and all the best, and speak to you soon.